one of One Drink, 3 Bars, the channel where we choose a drink, order it at 3 different bars, and compare 3 different bartenders' takes on the same drink. As an added bonus, we'll always be making the drink at home before we try them out. And since this is the first episode, we'll go over a few of the rules. The first rule is choose wisely. And basically what this means is that we're going to keep the type of bar in mind and the type of drink in mind. Say we were going to do an episode about the Vieux Carré or the Aviation. We're not going to go to the smoky little dive down the street or the bowling alley. There's only certain places that are going to know what those drinks are and have the things to make them. The second rule is no secrets. We're going to be telling them exactly what we're doing, and I hope that a lot of the bartenders will want to be on video and kind of tell us what they're doing. If they don't, that's fine. We'll just find out all we can and review it for you. And the third rule is that we're going to do only one per day. If we try to do all 4 drinks on the same day, we're going to like the third and fourth one no matter what. So I figure this is the best for our health, and it's the best way to keep it fair. The fourth rule is that if the bartender asks us to call a spirit, we're going to let them decide. This is just another thing we can compare, and I think it makes it a little more interesting. And the final rule is that we're only going to go out and get these drinks when the bars are slow. We're not going to go on a Friday night when there's a big crowd there, and this is just another way of keeping it fair. The first drink we're going to do is an old-fashioned. I picked this one for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a pretty common drink. It's widely available. And the second reason is that you can do so many different things with it. It's basically just bourbon, ice, sugar, and bitters, but people garnish it differently. People use different types of liquors. Some might use a rye, some might use a bourbon. You know, somebody might use just Angostura bitters like we're gonna do, or they may have some special cherry bitters or something really out there that they can use to give it a completely different flavor. Now that you know what the channel is all about, let's get started on an old-fashioned. Like I said, it's a pretty basic drink. We've got some of the ingredients right here. We're going to use Knob Creek bourbon. The reason I chose this is that it's a nice mid-range bottle. It can be found just about anywhere. I've had some other bourbons and ryes over here. As a lot of people use a rye because it gives it a spicier flavor. This is all stuff I had on hand and all stuff I'd use and all things that I wouldn't really be surprised to find when we order the drink out. We've got Rittenhouse Rye, High West American Prairie Bourbon, High West Double Rye. That stuff is really good. Jack Daniel's Rye and Wild Turkey Rye. The other ingredients are sugar, bitters, and ice. Like I said, it's pretty simple. So the first step to making an old-fashioned is to take a sugar cube and soak it with bitters. And I'm using Angostura bitters. This is the most standard bitters. It's nothing too exciting. And we're gonna muddle the sugar and the bitters until we form a paste. So now that we're done with that, the next step is adding the bourbon. And I'm gonna put in 2 ounces. And this is a Japanese jigger that I ordered off of Amazon. And it has the markings inside for a ½ ounce, a ¼ ounce, 2 ounces. And it's a nice little tool, very handy to have. And then the next thing we're going to do is put the ice in. I'm using this large clear ice sphere. I have like a mold to make these with. Right, and now that we've got our ice in here, I'm gonna give it about 30 seconds of stirring. And I love these big ice spheres, especially this one, because it's completely clear, there's no air in it. This will stay solid a lot longer than other types of ice. And I will put the link to the mold I used to make this in the description below. Definitely let me know if you'd like to see a video comparing different ice molds and the pros and cons of them. So now that we're done stirring, I'm going to go ahead and garnish this with an orange peel and a Luxardo cherry. So you just take your peeler and get a little bit off that orange. And you'll want to express the orange oils to give the drink an aroma. And I like to rub my orange peel around the rim of the glass and just drop it in. And then I'm going to take one of my little clear disposable cocktail picks and put a Luxardo cherry on it. And I also got these picks off of Amazon. I really like those in all kinds of drinks. So there's the old fashioned. So for the first episode, we thought of doing something a little extra. So we have a wild card. This is a pre-made old fashioned that I found at Total Wine when I went to get my bourbon. That's part of the reason I use Knob Creek. This uses Knob Creek. This is called On the Rocks Premium Cocktails. And it says the old fashioned, made with Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, bitters, and natural flavors. Sounds kind of like what we just made. And the instructions say pour over ice and enjoy. In the description, staying true to the original recipe, we keep our old fashions strong and simple, using a generous pour of Knob Creek bourbon whiskey, bitters, cane sugar, orange, cherry, and lemon zest. So it sounds like the only thing they did different was the lemon zest. But we're gonna take this, and to be fair, we're gonna pour it over the same type of ice and garnish it in the same way as our first one. And we're gonna compare them and see which one we like. And I paid about $13 for this, and I only paid about $25 for the bottle of Knob Creek, so I feel like that just buying the bourbon is a much better option as far as the cost goes. But maybe if you don't have all the stuff to make it and you just want something easy, this could be a good alternative. And I'll do the same thing. I'll stir it just to kind of dilute it and cool it off, and to keep it consistent with what we've made earlier. We'll also garnish it with an orange peel. And our cherry. So there's our pre-made old fashioned. And just looking at them, it looks a little lighter in color, but that's about the only visual difference. Now I'm gonna taste both of them. Delicious as expected. And the pre-made. That's also pretty good, but it definitely doesn't have as much of a kick to it, but it has plenty of a kick. It is 35% alcohol or 70 proof, so that's pretty strong. And then the bourbon itself is 100 proof or 50% alcohol, so that would explain why it has a little bit less of an oomph, but it's still really good. I'm actually surprised at how good this is. If somebody served me this at a restaurant, I'd probably be pretty happy with it.
We headed?
Today we're headed to drink to film our very first drink at a bar. We're just gonna go up and ask the bartender if they're willing to be filmed and assure them it's okay if they're not. And we'll see how it goes. So I'm really looking forward to this one because this bar, they really take pride in their drinks, and we've been here before and we know it's good. It'll really be interesting to see the difference between this place, a chain restaurant, and just like a little neighborhood bar.
I used to work at a distillery where we made all of our own liquors, and so everyone laughs at me here because I do have an old fashioned that I love. I make it with my own Amaro. But I love the old fashioned here is really, really good too. It's hard to choose. It really depends on the day.
So what was that?
So this is the, and this is random comment to you. So this is the postmodern whiskey from the place that I used to work. I like it because it's fiery. It's a young whiskey, but they also do it. It's like a Highland Scotch almost, but without the peat. So it's fiery and wonderful. And this is for the me version. That's wormwood base that I made. The Artemisia. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's got a bitter body of wormwood and lemon balm, and a sweet body. So we did, this is the house, I did Buffalo Trace and Luxardo cherries. It has the syrup in it too. This is Angostura and Reagan's bitters. And then we put in a Demerara syrup, so brown sugar. And then yours has a muddled orange in it. And it is built in the glass, so it's very boozy and very strong.
And this is Stephanie spinning an old fashioned, and she didn't even add any sweetener to it. The sweetness is all in the spirit, and I can't believe it. It's sweet enough for me. It's really good. And I also tasted the traditional one she made, and they're both very good. So now that we've got our first stop under our belts, I can say that was a great success. Thanks to Stephanie and thanks to Drink. Stephanie was really into our idea. She used Amaro that she made herself at Postmodern Spirits instead of the simple syrup or the Demerara syrup, and it was awesome. She didn't have to use any additional sweetener, so I look forward to getting another one, and I think it's going to be a pretty tough act to follow. The next stop is going to be more of like a little neighborhood bar, where that was more of a craft cocktail bar. Go right around the corner to Rooster's Bar and Grill. And I have no idea what they'll make. I could see them using maybe some more fruit and soda, but I don't know. We'll see. I guess it depends on who's there. But let's go. I just got out of Rooster's, and the guy working there, he was super nice, but he said he didn't have the ingredients to make an old fashioned, and that they don't really keep ingredients to make many cocktails at all. So I asked him where he would recommend for like a good neighborhood bar, and he suggested this place, Buckethead Tavern. So I'm here and I'm gonna check it out. Thanks to the guy at Rooster's for the tip. Meg and Delaney were the two bartenders on duty at Buckethead. They were fairly receptive to being in the video. They were also fairly busy. And they made me an old fashioned with bullet bourbon and muddled cherries and oranges. And there's a guy at the bar who saw it and thought it looked so good that he also ordered one. But yeah, it's slightly different than the one I got at Drink, but still really good. And here's the other drink that the person ordered because mine looks so good.
This one with Buffalo Trace. To me, this is what the classic old-fashioned is. Like, if you make it any worse than this, it's going to taste really awful. But if you go any higher than this, it's gonna feel like uppity and like a little bit too much. This right here is the one that's like straight up the middle. This is the one I'm expecting when I order an old-fashioned. Those really, really red cherries with all the fake coloring on them, those are the ones I like. That's what I want. Like, I feel like you don't need to church it up and put like fancy cherries in it or something, you know, like.
So, our second bar, Buckethead, I thought that went really well. Meg and Delaney were working. It was a little busier than Drink the first place, but they still did a pretty good job, and they were cool with me filming in there and stuff. They didn't have as much time as Stephanie did to go into details and stuff, but I totally get it. And today we're doing the third bar, which is going to be the chain restaurant, Cheesecake Factory. Now this could go one of several ways, so let's go in and see how it goes. And it's a Friday afternoon at about 2 o'clock, so I don't think it'll be like too busy, but we'll see. This place is almost always busy. But at 2 in the afternoon, the Cheesecake Factory was literally running out the door. There were people waiting to be seated. Every bar stool was full. And as you know from our rules, we don't go when they're overwhelmed and crowded. So I think I'm gonna head over to the other side of the mall and see if LongHorn is a little less busy. So here we are at LongHorn. It seems a little less hectic over here, so let's go in and check it out. Here at LongHorn, and I have a whole bar to myself, which is what you would expect at 2 in the afternoon. So I got my old fashioned. The bartender here is very busy. It seems like she's having to take care of half the tables here too, but she was super nice, and she told me that the old fashioned here uses a version of Knob Creek that they only have at LongHorn, and they've garnished it with a cherry and an orange slice, and they also use the big block of ice, which I like. This is definitely one of the sweeter ones I've had, but it's still really good. But if you don't like them too sweet, you might want to ask them to ease off on the sweetener a little bit. But it's very good. Now that we've gotten one drink at 3 different bars, let's compare the 3 bars. As you remember, the home version was pretty by the book. I used Knob Creek bourbon, and I garnished with a Luxardo cherry and an orange. The ice that I used was the only ice that didn't have any cloudiness in it. And like I said, I use a special mold to make it, and it's kind of big and bulky. So I can kind of see why none of the restaurants had that. I can't see how they would make enough ice to serve a whole bar every night. The On the Rocks premix that we picked up was not bad at all. I was kind of shocked at that. The first bar we went to get a drink was called Drink. Drink is a craft cocktail bar, so we expected great things from it, and we got it. There was a bartender named Stephanie working, and she was really, really into her job. You could tell, because not only did she want to show us the house old fashioned, but she also made a second one that put her own creative spin on it. The first one, the classic, she just used Buffalo Trace, standard ice, and a similar garnish to what I used at home. And then the creative version, instead of using simple syrup and bourbon, she used the postmodern whiskey, and then she used Amaro as the sweetener. And she used the large ice sphere, and then she garnished it with an orange peel, which she set on fire for a second before dropping it into the drink. So that was really cool. And those drinks were $10 each. They were the most expensive ones we got, but I don't think that price was out of line at all. It was definitely worth it. The next place I went to was more of a casual neighborhood bar, Buckethead Tavern. It's one of those places that has a more kind of like rowdy and festive atmosphere, and they allow smoking inside. So I definitely expected a different type of drink than I would get at the craft cocktail bar. The drink there cost $6.50. They used bullet bourbon. This was a more modern spin where they muddled the fruit with the syrup and the bitters and the bourbon. I thought it was a good value and it was refreshing. Other people kept ordering them after they saw mine. One guy who spoke in the video tried his with Buffalo Trace, and then there was another one who got it with Knob Creek. That's definitely one I'd also get again. My third stop was LongHorn to cover a chain restaurant. They had a pretty good old-fashioned there as well. It cost $8.49, and the special thing about it was that they used their own version of Knob Creek that was bottled just for LongHorn. I also like their garnish. It was just an orange wedge and a cherry, and I like the little like LongHorn logo thing they throw in. That's a nice touch. The only thing I didn't like about that one was that it was a little too sweet for me, so I would order one again there, but I would ask them to make it a little less sweet, because I'd actually like to taste their custom Knob Creek to see if I could tell a difference between that and what I used at home. Okay, that's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Let us know which old-fashioned you like the most in the comments below. Do you like the classic one, the one with Amaro in it, the more modern twist? Also, let us know in the comments below what kind of drinks you'd like to see featured on the channel. We've got a pretty fun one penciled in for the next video, and let's just say that the drink we're doing next really ties the room together. And if you'd like to be notified of anything we upload in the future, just hit that bell. If you'd like to help this channel and you need to purchase some barware, use the links in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.